So now we are going to be trying to solve some past questions that have to do with all what we have been talking about. So far we've covered polynomials, simultaneous equation and change of subset of formulas. So we're going to be looking at some JAMB questions that are relating to what I've talked about. So the first question has to do with change of subject of formula, and in this question we are told to make f the subject of the formula, and as you can see f is located here, so we have to make f the subject of formula. So we start out by writing out the question where we are given t is equals to the square root of v over 1 over f plus 1 over g. So now to remove this big square root sign, what do we have to do to both sides? Because remember, in change of subject of formula, what we'll do is that any operation we apply to the left hand side, we also apply to the right hand side. So to remove this square root, we have to square both sides. So when we square both sides of the equation, we are left with what? T squared b equals to v over 1 over f plus 1 over g. And when we cross multiply, we have what? We have t squared into bracket 1 over f plus 1 over g is equals to v. And what can we do now? We can divide both sides by t squared. So if we divide both sides by t squared, we are left with what? 1 over f plus 1 over g is equals to v over t squared, because this t squared here will cancel out this t squared. So now we can subtract 1 over g from both sides, or which is the same as bringing 1 over g to this side. So we have 1 over f is equals to v over t squared minus 1 over g. So now these two numbers, we can find the LCM, and the LCM of these two numbers is t squared g. So t squared g in t squared in t squared g will give me g. G times v will give me what? Vg or gv. And y g in t squared g will give me t squared. T squared times minus 1 will give me minus t squared. So now 1 over f is equals to this. So I can cross multiply. So I have f into bracket gv minus t squared is equals to t squared g. So now I can divide both sides by gv minus t squared. So if I divide both sides by gv minus t squared, then this cancels this. Then I'm left with what? F is equals to t squared g over gv minus t squared. And when we look at it, what options correspond to that? We can see is option A, or we have b is equals to gt squared, same thing as t squared g over gv minus t squared. So the answer to this question is B. So let's move on to the next question, and here, which is pretty interesting, we are told to find the remainder when this expression is divided by this. So normally what we'll do is that we cannot apply our remainder theorem here because we don't have it in the form of x minus a. So we have to go through the long way and try to use a long division to figure this out. So we write our dividend in within here, which is what? X cubed minus 2x squared plus 3x minus 3. And we have our divisor here, which is what? X squared plus what? So how do we start out? We say what number would I multiply with x squared to give me x cubed, which is the same thing as saying x cubed divided by x squared. I will know that x cubed divided by x squared is going to be equals to x. So we write x here. I will know that x times x squared will give me x cubed. I will know that x times 1 will give me x plus x. So we subtract. So now that we subtract now, we see that x cubed minus z cubed will give me 0. There is no x squared term here, so bring this down. So we have minus 2x squared. And now for the 3x, you have 3x minus x, because minus times plus is minus. So 3x minus x will give me plus 2x. And I just bring down this one here because I don't have any normal term here. So I have minus 3. So it's ask yourself the same question again. What do I need to multiply by x squared to give me minus 2x squared, which is the same thing as saying minus 2x squared over x squared. And what does that equal to? Minus 2. So I write minus 2 up here and I multiply again. So minus 2 times minus x squared will give me what? Minus 2x squared. And minus 2 times 1 will give me what? Minus 2. So now I write that down. So I subtract. When I subtract, I have minus 2x squared minus minus plus x squared, which will cancel out. Then I'm left with 2x minus, there's a 0 term here, so I write 2x, and I have 3 minus minus 2, which is the same thing as what? 3 plus 2, and 3 plus minus 3 plus 2 is the same thing as minus 1. So there's nothing I can do because the power of x here is less than the maximum power of x here, so I stop here. So what is the remainder? As we have identified the part, here is the dividend, here is the divisor, here is the quotient, and this term that is remaining when you are done with your long division is the remainder. So the remainder is what? 2x minus 1, and that makes the answer to this question A. So the correct answer or the correct option is A. Now let's move on to another example, and here we are told to find the value of k if y minus 1 is a factor of y cubed plus 4y squared plus k minus 6. So now we are given one of the factors, which we are told that one of the factors is what? 1 minus 1. If you remember our remainder theorem, we said that if a number a is a factor, that when you find, like, if a number a is a factor and you find f of a, that the remainder is going to be equal to 0. So the remainder, when you put a factor or a root into a polynomial, the remainder equals to 0. So applying our remainder theorem here, so we just find the root. Since we are given one of the factors, we can find the roots. So we know that 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. So the root will be what? Y is equals to 1. So we know that if we find f of 1 and it is a factor, it's going to be equal to 0, because the remainder when you divide a number by its factor is always 0. So I put 1 into this polynomial here in place of y. So I put 1 to substitute the value of y. So, and I equate it to 0. So what am I left with? I have 1 raised by 3 plus 4 times 1 squared, then plus k minus 6 must be equal to 0, because this is a factor, and when you divide the number by its factor, the remainder must be equal to 0. So to recap, we are making use of the remainder theorem here. So you just solve normally. You have 1 plus 4, 4 times 1 squared is 4, then plus k minus 6 must be equal to 0. So I have 1 plus 4, so I have 5 plus k minus 6 is equal to 0. So I have 5 minus 6 is what? I have k minus 1 is equals to 0. So I have k is equals to 1. So therefore, the value of k is equals to 1, which is option D. So to recap, we made use of the remainder theorem, which says that if one of the roots of the, when you divide a polynomial by its factor, then the remainder will be equals to 0. So what we did was we found the root of the 0 based on this factor, which will be y equals to 1. Then we substitute the value of y into the equation based on the remainder theorem, and we equated it to 0 because this is a factor of this. So we're able to make k the subset of formula, and we found it to be 1. So now let's look at another example, or JAMB question to be precise. So we say when the expression pm squared plus qm plus 1 is divided by this, it has a remainder of 2. And when it is divided by m plus 1, the remainder is 4. Find p and q. So now, based on the remainder theorem, you will recall that if you have a divisor in which you are trying to divide, and you put in the root of that divisor into the equation, and you try to solve it down, then what you get must be equals to the remainder. So you can go back to the videos on the remainder theorem to understand better what I'm talking about. So in this case, I'm told that when m minus 1 is divided. So I find the root here. So m minus 1 equals 0. So m is equals to 1. So when m is equals to 1, the remainder is 2. So how do I write it down? I substitute the value of m equals to 1 into this expression here. So I have p into bracket 1 squared plus q into bracket of 1, then plus 1 will be equals to what? The remainder is 2. So here I have p plus q will be equals to 2 minus 1. So p plus q is equals to 1. Now I'm told that when it is divided by m plus 1, the remainder is 4. So similarly, I'm told that when m plus 1 equals to 0, so m here will be equals to what? Minus 1. So I substitute it here similarly. So I have what? P into bracket minus 1 squared plus q into bracket minus 1 plus 1. The remainder is what? 4. So when I expand this, I know that minus 1 squared is 1. 1 times p is p plus, then minus q times minus 1 will give me minus q. So this becomes minus q. So I have minus q here, and I have plus 1 is equals to 4. So I have p minus q is equals to 4 minus 1. So p minus q is equals to 3. So this is my second equation, and this is my first equation. So writing both of them out, I have p plus q is equals to 1 and p minus q is equals to 3. So I just have to solve this simultaneous equation to find the values of p and q. And if you see, if I had both equations, I have p plus p, I'm going to get 2p, and I have plus q minus q, I'm going to get 0 is equals to 1 plus 3, 4. So this way I've eliminated q. So I divide both sides by 2, and I get my p value to be equals to 2. So now I can find the value of q. So if I take any of the equation, so for example, let me take the first equation that says p plus q is equals to 1. So I know that my q is what? 1 minus p. So my q now is going to be 1 minus, and my p is 2. So my q is equals to what? Minus 1. So what is the value of p? The value of p is what? 2. And the value of q is what? Minus 1. And the questions ask us to find the value of p and q respectively. So the answer is going to be 2, minus 1. And what option corresponds to that? A. So you should be careful, because if the question has read find q and p respectively, then you know that this option will come first before this. So the answer would have been B. So you make sure that you read the question properly, so you know the order in which your answer is to appear. So in this case, the answer is A and not B. So let's move on to the next question. And here we are told to factorize this completely. So we have talked about factorization, but how do we deal with something like this? So let's get started. So we'll try to factorize the numerator, and we'll try to factorize the denominator. Then we'll see if you can cut. So now, if you look at these terms here, what is common to all of them? You can see that x is common to all of them. So we can write x, and what will be left here? We'll be left with x squared, and here we'll be left with what? Plus 3x, and the last term we'll be left with what? Minus 10. Because when you expand this, you get this. And the bottom, what is common to both? You have 2, and you'll be left with what? X squared minus 4. So how do we deal with the numerator and denominator? So if we look at the numerator, this term in the bracket, you can easily factorize this using your quadratic equation, and in the denominator you can easily factorize this using the difference of 2 squared. So let's get started. So for the numerator, you can try to factorize that. It's given as what? Part of the numerator, x squared plus 3x minus 10. So multiply the first and the last term, in which you have minus 10x squared. Then we ask ourselves, what two numbers can we multiply together, but when we to get minus 10x, and when we add or subtract to get 3x. So now that is going to be 5x and what? And minus 2x. So 5x times minus 2x will give us minus 10x, while 5x minus 2x will give me 3x. So I replace it. So I have x squared plus 5x minus 2x minus 10. So x is common to both. I'm left with x plus 5. And here minus 2 is common, and I'm left with x plus 5. So factorizing this now becomes what? Pick one of the x plus 5 and I'm left with what? X minus 2. So this term can be written as this. So now let's work on the denominator. So let's work on the denominator now and try to apply difference of two squares. Denominator. So in the denominator now we have what? X squared minus 4. So how do we deal with this? Remember your difference of two squares. You have to have x squared minus y squared equals to what? X plus y multiplied by x minus y. So we have to write this in this term, and the way we do that is by writing x squared and by changing 4 to what? 2 squared. So this then becomes what? X plus 2 multiplied by x minus 2. So now we have factorized this part in the numerator and this part in the denominator, so we can get back to business. So back to business. So now we can replace those quantities by what we have found them to be. So this term here, x squared plus 3x minus 10, can be written as this, can be written as x plus 5 multiplied by x minus 2. And this term at denominator, x squared minus 4, can be written as x plus 2 x minus 2. I can write x plus 2 and x minus 2. So I can now cancel them out. So this cancels this. And what am I left with? I'm left with x into bracket x plus 5 over 2 into bracket x plus 2. So what option corresponds to this? As you can see, the correct answer is what? Is B. So B is the answer to this question. Now let's move on to the next question that we'll be attempting. So in this case, we are told to find the values of x and y in the equation below. So now we are given this first equation, and as you can see, it has a quadratic term to it. So we are given that what? X squared minus y squared is equals to 4 as the first equation, and we are given x plus y is equals to 2. And as I've mentioned before, to solve quadratic equation that in simultaneous, you have to make use of the substitution method. So what can we do here? So in equation 2, we can make x the subject of formula. We can make x the subject of formula. And what would that be? So it means that my x now be equals to what? 2 minus y. So we can now substitute this value, x is equals to 2 minus y, into equation 1. So and when we do that, instead of having x squared, now we have 2 minus y squared, then minus y squared is equals to 4. So we expand this, and using the method I talked about. So you just start by saying, what is 2 squared? 2 squared is 4. Then what is 2 times minus y times 2? 2 times minus y is minus 2y. Minus 2y times 2 is minus 4y. And what is minus y squared? Minus y times minus y is plus y squared. We have plus y squared, then minus y squared is equals to 4. And here you can see that y squared cancel that minus y squared. So I'm left with 4 minus 4y is equals to 4. So I can say minus 4y is equals to 4 minus 4, which is equals to 0. So y will be equals to 0 divided by minus 4, which is equals to 0. So now that I've gotten y as 0, I've already found out here that what? X is equals to 2 minus y. So I can substitute y as 0. So x will be equals to 2 minus 0. And that gives me x is equals to 2. So therefore, x is equals to 2 and what? And y is equals to 0. So what option corresponds to this? And that is option C. So the correct answer to this question is what? Is C. Now let's move on to the last past question that we're going to be examining. So now we are told to factorize completely this expression. And as you can see, this is clearly a problem of difference of two squares. So how do we start out? Remember difference of two squares. We need to write the first quantity x in terms of squared, then minus y in terms of squared, and that will give me what? X plus y times x minus y. So how can I do that with this? So I start out by looking at how I can write everything here in terms of its square. So 9 can be written as 3 squared. So I have 3 squared y squared, and 16 can be written in terms of 4 squared. I have 4 squared x squared. So now I can bring 3 and y together and square them together. So I have, this is the same thing as writing 3y squared. Then I have 4x squared. So as you can see, I've written it in this form, in which my x now is represented by 3y and my y is represented by 4x. So now I can apply this formula. So it says I first sum the two terms and I multiply it by the difference between them. So this will be equals to what? 3y plus 4x times 3y minus 4x. So that is the answer. Which option corresponds to this? So if you look carefully, you see that that is option D, in which you have 3y minus 4x, this term corresponds to this, and you have 3y plus 4x, this term corresponds to this. The order does not matter since it's product. So the correct option to this question is what? Option D. So now what I would suggest is that we have gone through some questions. So in the next module, you will find some exercises that you should try to work on. Those exercises are from JAMB past question, so you can try to see if you really understand, and if you don't, try to make use of the forum so that you can connect with other students and post your questions. Other students can answer, and sometimes I can even try to go through them and see if I can be of help. And finally, you should also try to go to the past questions and look for more questions related to all we have discussed, so that you'll be sure that you have really understood the concept with regards to polynomial. So that will be all for now. Bye.